I truly believe our homes are the foundation to creating the life that we want. That our home is our laboratory on where we can experiment with ideas on who we want to be. And it is a safe and secure place to test out ideas on, the life that we want to live. And it's such an opportunity, and I feel it's a really untapped opportunity. And, we can create spaces that not only make us feel good, but it's an opportunity to then connect with our creativity and in a really powerful way and make our dreams possible, make our creative projects and dreams possible. Welcome to Imprint, a podcast about creating a home and life you love. I'm Natalie Walton, an interior designer, stylist, and best-selling author focused on an holistic approach to homes. Each week, I'm sharing insights and interviews about the creative process to help you enhance both your interiors and well-being, as well as provide you with the tools and resources to make considered and sustainable choices with all that you create. Hello, everyone. I hope that you're all well. I'm looking forward to sharing this episode of Imprint with you because it's kind of been fun to look back on the year that was 2022. It's been quite an eventful year in many regards. It's been overall a good year though, and this is kind of a personal episode. I always enjoy when other people share and reflect on their year. And I hope that you enjoy this one as well. And be sure to let me know because it's going to be a little bit different to some of the other episodes. But I hope that you're going to get as much value out of it as the other ones as well. So basically, what I've done is a kind of quick brain dump of some of the biggest lessons that I have learned. They're not in order. They are just as they're fresh to mind. And to be quite honest, they're probably relate to things that have happened more recently than further back because I've got a terrible memory. I did go through my phone as a kind of jog of like the favorites, and it was nice to reflect on some of the moments that we've had as a family. We went to Tasmania and we had a beautiful trip in Yamba not so long ago. We've been working on a renovation and we've had all sorts of things happen over this past year. Some of you will know and remember, if you've been listening to the podcast for a little while, that our region had intense flooding, devastating floods earlier this year. Lives were lost. It was, an awful way to start the year. We actually had almost like nonstop rain from about November the year before to about March. And it was maybe even longer because I'm trying to think when the second flood was. But we actually had 2 floods within a month that were both really, horrific. So the year sort of was very intense emotionally in terms of how it started, and to have that on the back of, COVID, and we actually had our children have COVID at the start of the year. We had COVID during the year, but I'm not going to focus on those things. Instead, I want to focus on, some of the things that I've learned that I hope that, will be helpful for you in some way. So one of the more recent, and I've got 10. So I'm going to share number 1, which is I need to invest in myself, my business, and my dreams more. So as I said, I'm kind of starting with some things that are slightly more fresh of mind. And I have done a bunch of courses over the years. I haven't done loads, but I have done a few. And my first one that I invested in was probably about 2 years ago, and that was valuable. But I've always had this, which is terrible as somebody who actually creates courses for other people. But sometimes I tend to think, I can work it out myself. Even I think this, which is just ridiculous. But every time I've invested in myself, the growth, both personally and professionally, has been exponential. And so for me, taking courses and coaching, I've really seen my return on investment over and over again. And I was just saying to my husband over lunch that I took a business course recently, and it just keeps on paying off in ways I didn't even expect. And I said to him, I wish that I'd done it sooner. And I'm just taking that as a valuable reminder to invest more in myself. And, that is my hope, that if you take one of my courses, that you have that experience, that it is something. And I know that I have students saying this to me all the time, that they go back over the notes and they sort of, you've got to keep connecting and refreshing with the material. I mean, obviously there are some lessons that really stick with you and they're sort of more general ideas and philosophies, but it's still worthwhile and helpful. And this is what I do is, sometimes I can't always do everything all at once, and I will do certain sections at certain times of other people's courses. But, it is something that you can kind of keep going back to over and over again. And that's why I love giving lifetime access to the course. I did one course and it was like I got lifetime access to that version of the course. And I sort of felt that was a little bit mean, actually. I like that, when you do my courses, you always get all the bonuses and the updates that kind of come along with the course. So, I always think though that when you invest in yourself, and I've done that with coaching as well, it has just really helped me make some important mindset shifts, and it's been really valuable. And honestly, with every single one of them, I've thought, I wish I did this sooner. Why did I wait so long to try and work this out myself? And, because the thing is that there is so much information on the internet. And of course, you can go and get stuff for free. But what happens is you end up hobbling things together and you don't actually get like this clear system and this clear process and this clear process of people who are ahead of you. And that's the key thing as well, because people can kind of regurgitate stuff on the internet. And sometimes when I'm trying to find information, I can just see that it's almost like a bot has like just reworked the same content over and over and over again. You can see that this is not coming from somebody who's got a wealth of experience or has created their own system or their own process. And it's just coming from someone who's kind of like scouring the internet and just hacking a list together. And, when you take a course or you invest in yourself from someone who is ahead of you and really has like a proven process, it really just, like I said, the return on investment is just exponential because it just keeps giving back to you. The second lesson that I learned this year is that it's important to take a break every 90 days. Now, I've got a confession. I'm really bad at planning holidays in advance, and I'm good at doing planning in relation to my business. I could excuse myself and say, well, it's because of COVID. And I do also think that part of the reason is that in the past, prior to sort of this whole COVID period, I would travel quite a bit with work. So I kind of got my travel fix through work. But it's actually important to have like a break, not just be traveling for work, but to sort of have that downtime every 90 days. And as a family, we often go to Tasmania because we've got family in Tasmania. My mother-in-law and my husband's family, a lot of them live there. So, which is always great to go there. And like, we really switch off and I love that. But when I work, I work hard. I really focus on when I work. But then when it's time to switch off, and I'm good at this on the weekends, like I completely switch off, but I need to integrate this more into my sort of routine. And, we had 2 days in Yamba, and it was so good and it was so needed to just really switch off and connect as a family. And when I say that, I mean, like I said, we have these really simple, easy weekends, but often also what ends up happening is that on a weekend as a family, we will be doing gardening or we're making morning tea and afternoon tea or lunch. And, there's the cleaning up and all the chores. And I'm looking at all the things that need to be done and the deck needs to be cleaned or whatever it is and all of these things. Whereas when you actually remove, and so it's not just taking a break every 90 days in terms of, I should clarify this, it's not just, like not working, it's actually changing your environment. So it's important to take a break and change your environment every 90 days. I'm going to type that in because it's important. It's to kind of get that change of scene, because when you do, it's like a real reset. You kind of get out of your regular habits and routines, and it gives you a fresh perspective. And like I said, for us, when we went and had, it was just 2 nights in Yamba, and it just, we had so much fun. We were riding bikes into town and doing things that we don't normally do, and just having fun, as a family, and playing. They had like I can't remember what it was called. It wasn't Pictionary, but it was like a charades kind of game. And we were doing that, and we were having so much fun. And it doesn't have to be complicated, but just to have that change of environment every 90 days is really important. So that's definitely something I'm going to be scheduling for 2023. So the third big lesson that I learned this year is that a clear vision makes decision making easier. Now, I know this, and I've spoken about this a lot in the past, but I had a real aha moment when the builder of the renovation project that we've been working on for Imprint House this year, he said to my husband that I was really good at making decisions. And I've had many, many friends, and obviously clients as well, contact me because they're struggling with a decision. And it really reinforced for me how important it is to have clarity with what you're trying to create. Because even if obstacles come in the way, it makes you realize, and it becomes easier to pivot on that decision-making process. So you just know what's most important and what you're trying to achieve and what is going to get you the result that you need. And even if you have to sort of change something because of a structural reason or whatever, you're still able to move forward because you're kind of not getting caught up on the indecision when you don't have clarity. Like when you don't have that clarity, that's when you start to go around and around in circles. So I really kind of relearned that lesson. And some of the lessons that I'm going to share, they are ones that I've relearned, which actually takes me to number 4, which is almost like that too. Because number 4 was that I learned that I still love styling people's homes. Now, that might sound like a funny thing to say as a stylist, but obviously over the years, I've been working on books, and I do, consults, interior design. I've got my shop Imprint House, and I realized because this year I've been doing photo shoots for the Imprint House journal, and we sort of feature these home tours. And I realized that I always seem to find a way back to styling. So the first, my first experience of styling was for magazines. But then when I moved out of magazines, then I created an editorial content agency with photographer Chris Warnes, which was called Warnes and Walton. And we had our homes featured all around the world. We had an agent in Italy who would place our, features in publications across the globe. And I loved that so much. But that kind of had to evolve as Instagram started to change things and the world of magazines started to change. And so then I moved more into styling for books. And I have loved that process. I mean, I've created 4 books now. And, it's like that created a way for me to continue on my styling journey. And I'm sure there will be more books. I haven't locked anything as yet. I'm sure there will be more in the pipeline. But for now, I'm enjoying styling the homes for the Imprint House journal. And like I said, I just had this realization that I still keep coming back to it. And so I guess for you, it might be helpful to think, what is it that you keep coming back to? What is it that you keep circling back to in some way? What is like something that's a thread in your life that you just when you reflect on it, you notice that you keep gravitating towards that thing? Because I think that, when you become aware of that, that's where your joy is. You know, that saying of like, follow your bliss. Like, I enjoy styling spaces. I just enjoy it. Like, I love the transformation that's possible with it. And like I said, it's a process that I've learned, that I've developed, that I'm confident with. And it's playful and it's enjoyable and I love everything about it. And it's just, like I said, I just had this moment of realization, that's just interesting. Like, even though the medium changes and, I've done it for magazines and for brands and for books and, now for this online journal, but I still keep coming back to it. The fifth lesson that I learned relates to, I love helping other people connect with their homes. This was a lesson that I learned recently when someone asked me, she said, what's the big problem that you want to solve? And, I was thinking about this in relation to, the content that I create. And because obviously I've got the podcast, I've got my notebook, my online notebook, and, how I show up on Instagram and all of those things. And so if you're, sharing content in some way, then, or you've got a business, even if it's, you've got an interior design business or a styling service or whatever it is, like, what is the big problem that you want to solve for other people? And for me, this is what everything comes back to. And that it is the home. I truly believe our homes are the foundation to creating the life that we want. That our home is our laboratory on where we can experiment with ideas on who we want to be. And it is a safe and secure place to test out ideas on, the life that we want to live. And it's such an opportunity. And I feel it's a really untapped opportunity. And, we can create spaces that not only make us feel good, but it's an opportunity to then connect with our creativity and in a really powerful way and make our dreams possible, make our creative projects and dreams possible. And I want to help share this idea with people because, I've personally experienced so much value from it. My home has helped transform my connecting with my home has helped me literally transform my life and create a life that I didn't even think was possible. And that's what I'm excited about sharing with you. And I hope that this idea resonates with you. I mean, if it does, then please let me know. Like, let me know in the, write a comment in the review section because, I really see that as something that is, a huge kind of foundation and underlying driving force to what motivates me, like in the kind of the long run, like what I want my imprint to be. So my sixth lesson that I had learned this year, that launching 2 books in 1 year was a little crazy. And it was partly due to circumstances. It's just kind of the way that it worked out, but I'm definitely not going to do that again. Now, just to give you a little bit of a backstory, my book Style got delayed many times because of all the lockdowns that were happening in Sydney, in Melbourne, even in Byron Bay. And so the launch date on that got pushed back. And the launch date on my book, Home by the Sea, got brought forward to, basically to capitalize, hopefully, on the, the period that's like the busiest tourist season in Byron Bay, which is over the summer season. And, wanting to get that book out there by then before Christmas, but also, because it does feature homes in this region, hoping to, make the most of that sort of busy season. So it was a very strategic decision to do that. But I think, it was perhaps also a decision that if I was to do it again, I might do it slightly differently and make slightly different decisions. But, that's all part of the learning process. I don't regret either of them. I love both of them. I feel like they're very, very different books and they each, offer a unique point of view and excuse me, and, hopefully lots of inspiration and value. But I think that what compounded that is something else I'm going to talk about in a moment, was that then I had a renovation to do in amongst that. So it was launching 2 books and doing a major renovation, as well as all the other things that I do, just pushed me a little bit beyond my limit at times. So the 7th lesson that I learned is that mindset matters. I have really spent a lot of time this year focusing on managing my mind and my mindset, and sort of really trying to overcome perfectionism in some areas of my life that I didn't even realize were around. It kind of reared its ugly head in some other areas of my life, and I'm working on this. But I think that the first step is awareness, and then also to be kind to yourself. And that's one element of this mindset mattering important. That makes sense. This mindset matters point. But there's also another point to it, which is that I have been learning about how to really understand the way that the brain works. And I know I've spoken about this in some of the episodes, but really so many of the hurdles that many of you face in relation to styling or renovating or decluttering your spaces, a lot of it actually comes down to your mindset. And it comes down to the way you think about the problems that you're facing. And, so often people, talk about, they struggle with their confidence or making decisions. And, I've simplified that process as much as possible within my courses. But the other key component, which I've been adding into my courses to really help you go to that next level, is really helping you manage your mind as well, and sharing the lessons that I've learned in relation to that, because that is how you're going to overcome things like, if it comes to decluttering and letting go of things and the guilt and all of those things. It comes down to the way you think about things and having a better understanding of the way that your brain works and how you need to make decisions ahead of time, and that how you need to honor those decisions. That is the key to everything. And when you work that out, you can apply that to anything. And so I've been working on this personally, but also as well as professionally. But as I said, I've been adding this to my courses because, I want you to get the results. Like, I want you to have a transformational experience within my courses that, when you do them, you really make the progress that you want. And you don't just learn the tools, but you learn, the mindset tools to help you get there as well. It's really, really important. The 8th lesson that I have learned is that everything is evolution. And it sort of goes a little bit with this point that I was just speaking about, which is, I've always loved learning. Learning has always been part of my life. I'm a lifelong learner, and I always will be. And some things have a distinct endpoint, such as a renovation. You get to the end of a renovation and you've got this definite thing that I renovated the house. You did this thing, and it's like a start and an end date. And of course, some people joke, well, we didn't quite finish this and we didn't quite finish that. But essentially, you do still have something that's more or less, it's finished. But with so many other things, it really is a continual process. And this relates to simplifying, and in decluttering your spaces and organizing them. It relates to styling and creating a home. It is a process that you need to always be learning and constantly engaging with the process. And sure, of course, you can get to a stage where you can feel more confident, because I certainly feel confident styling. But that's not to say that it's a set and forget kind of skill. I still need to engage with the process, because if I was to just stop styling and, never engage with it within my own home, well, I would start to get rusty. I would start to lose that confidence. So you need to engage with the process. Now, it's not to say that this is hard work. I mean, it's actually really enjoyable. As I said earlier, I mean, I really enjoy the process of styling spaces, rethinking them and reshaping them and resetting them and, making my spaces enjoyable to be. Now, there's the kind of the daily reset, and then there can be seasonal resetting and restyling and, different elements that you can do. But it's a process that you need to engage with. And when you do, then you need to also evolve alongside it. It's a continual learning process. And like I said, it's just a process that you need to engage with. So I have gone through many, I went through this big process of decluttering and really editing our collections before we moved from the city to the country. Like that was one big one. Like that was probably the biggest one. But then every time we've moved, I've done that. And then I do seasonal sessions of decluttering our spaces, because you need to, constantly be engaging with the process if you want to see the results. You can't just do it once and think that that's it. Now, there's definitely a way that you can integrate it more into your life so it becomes easier. There's definitely strategies, and this is something that I teach in the decluttering masterclass, that, this idea of you need to be a guardian of your home about what you allow into your home. And I sort of share some strategies of how you can do that. But I just want, for you from this lesson to sort of think about, always embracing the idea of evolving. That's what we are as humans. Like we need to evolve, and our homes evolve, and and so that's why we need to evolve alongside our homes. I mean, our homes are not static spaces. So we need to change and adapt with them. I mean, that's often one of the things that triggers me changing up my spaces or decluttering them. I mean, I recently actually had a session with my youngest son because, we actually, I mean, he loves cardboard boxes and making things out of them. And anyway, it was starting to get out of control. So we had a big session and we were going through, and he was actually much better at letting go of things than I was, which I'm actually stealing up from another point. But the point being that, as our children change, as we change and our interests change, our homes will change too, how we live and how we interact with each other. As children get older and their spaces need to change and you need to adapt, so you constantly have to engage with the process of, with your home and evolve alongside it too. So the ninth lesson is that children will amaze you in all sorts of ways. And I've shared before, one of my big values in relation to being a parent and a mother is to giving my children freedom. And what I mean about that is, now we've got very clear boundaries about certain things, but within those boundaries, they've got freedom. And so, to give you an example, like a practical version of this. So we live on 2 acres. So our children have complete freedom within this 2 acres, but they are not allowed to leave the boundary without asking permission. So that's like a clear boundary. But there are other kind of boundaries within our house. Like a simple one is, we have boundaries about the types of food that we eat and when we eat and how we eat. So we always eat together as a family. We eat at meal times. We don't snack. Like I don't allow my children to just go and snack all the time. Which it's funny, when I go to other people's homes styling them, I see how other kids are. And it's always really eye-opening when I just see kids snacking all day. And I think, oh, wow, like we don't do that, because I'm just so used to us just living our life the way that we do. So it's always interesting to get an insight into how other people live. But anyway, I wanted to share about how children can amaze us in all sorts of ways. And this is by no means to put myself up on a pedestal, but, we've just been really intentional about how we parent in terms of, what we value and setting our sort of, I once read about creating a mission statement as a family, and we've created something similar to this. And I do sort of share some of these ideas in the decluttering masterclass. And one is like how to get your family on board, because when it comes to sort of decluttering your spaces, because there are so many times, people sort of say, oh, but my children or my husband or whatever. But I find that our children have really risen to the challenge of, this in their life and just life in general. When it came to the floods, they were donating their toys and their clothes. And the girls had actually spent like weeks and weeks and weeks, like buying fabric and making skirts to sell at the markets. They really wanted to do that. And they actually gave all of them away to people who had been the flood victims. During COVID, when Daniel and I got sick, we isolated ourselves because we didn't want them to get COVID a second time. And they really looked after us, like they made us dinner every night because we didn't want to go into the kitchen. And they looked after each other. And I was just amazed at how they were able to rise to the occasion. And, with birthdays, like the older ones, they really don't ask for anything. And we've been giving them experiences over things. And I just love that they've really embraced this idea and they don't feel deprived at all. Like they just, they're really content. They don't need it for like an instant gratification or approval of some sort. So yeah, it's just really beautiful to see. And in this past year, like my 11-year-old daughter, like she's really been taking responsibility with her bedroom, and she like makes her bed every day and styles it beautifully, like with the throw, and she turns back the quilt, and it's just really lovely to see. And, it makes me happy to see her taking care of her space. And as I was touching on, my youngest son, he was able to let go of things better than me. Like we'd got these beautiful, we're very careful when we go places not to take things. But he, at the time when we were in Tasmania, they had these beautiful, amazing, really, really big shelves. And I said, okay, well, you can take one. And, he had like a whole handful. And I went, okay, you can take one. And because he's only 6. And so he did. And then we were having this tidy up and he said, I don't need this anymore. And I was thinking, oh, but that's the one shell that we got from Tasmania. So I was in some ways struggling more than him. But, I'm amazed by the capacity of children to evolve and to really be good at letting go and to live in the present. And there is so much that we can learn from them. So I did, it was another beautiful reminder of that as well. And finally, number 10 is one that I've shared before, but it is less but better. And this is a lesson that I keep coming back to. And one of the ways that I've come back to this, it was in the relation to the renovation that we were doing of our headquarters space, our showroom and concept store for Imprint House. And really, again, like, as they say, Harry Hindsight is a very wise man. Like, the benefit of hindsight was that when the builders suddenly became available, because we thought, no builders are available, and then one suddenly did become available, we had to take that opportunity. I should have then made a decision to take something else off my plate, and I didn't. And I really pushed myself much too hard and too far. And, I stretched myself way too thin. So just doing too many things and then having to work silly hours again, which, I really, in general, I don't do that. So it was kind of one of those reminders of less but better, that, when you add something to your plate, you need to take something else off your plate. So I hope that this has been insightful or interesting or valuable in some way for me to share some of the big lessons that I've learned this year. And I'm getting a knock at the door because I am in my daughter's bedroom recording this. So there you go. As I said, children will amaze you in all sorts of ways. I look forward to connecting with you in the coming year. I'm looking forward to a much needed time off break, and I really appreciate you listening to this podcast. I love reading all of your reviews. And if you could leave me one, then that would be the best Christmas present and the best way to finish up what has been a wonderful year. So thank you so much for your support and listening to Imprint Podcast. And I look forward to connecting with you again in 2023. See you then. All of the links and info for this episode are at nataliewalton.com/podcast. Don't forget to subscribe so that you can get a direct download of the latest episode. And I really appreciate when you take a minute to rate and review, as well as share the love with someone you know who might benefit from this episode, or on social media. If you'd like to access a range of free resources, come visit my website, nataliewalton.com. Thank you to Jaeger Media for producing this podcast. And I would also like to acknowledge the people of the Bundjalung Nation where it was recorded, and pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. I look forward to connecting again soon. I'm Natalie Walton, and you've been listening to Imprint.